From Crisis Response to Mood Management, Assignment 3, Reaction Card 2, I am Joel Sutton. Prompt 1. How confident am I at managing both crisis situations and ongoing mood treatment concerns? I'm going to break this down into two categories, personal and professional. From a professional perspective, I still maintain there is a lot that I do not know. That being the rules, regulations, and expectations that will be imposed from both the client in the moment, as well as the agency for whom I work, as well as the legal structures where I am operating within, be it state, city, local, federal, whatever. So there are a lot of nitty-gritties that I don't know of. At the same time, from a personal perspective, based on lived experiences where I have, through happenstance, been in a position to render aid and support to those in crisis, or where I have done so in my professional capacity as an educator, tending to students in crisis, I feel very comfortable that I have a solid grasp of situational awareness and an ability to respond to those in crisis at their moment of need in the capacity to which they need. That means if they need a forceful presence to push them towards a safe action, or if they need a quiet, reflective, emotional, supportive person merely to be present, I can serve in both of those roles. And I think I'm pretty aware and able to assess how that is, and recognize that the people in crisis may not be functioning entirely in a rational manner, and I'm okay working with that. Number 2, how has my thinking changed from addressing immediate crisis to develop long-lasting plans? Well, frankly, I haven't thought historically of managing crisis in terms of triage. That word to me mostly applied to a medical emergency room environment. Now I'm applying it more to a clinical setting, that when a client comes to me, they may walk through that door smiling and bubbling, as their persona is in a public setting and they're trying to maybe protect themselves. But when the door closes and they begin to open up, and we begin to hear clues and things from their situations, I recognize now that, especially in crisis situations or with patients who have suicidal ideation, that triage is a necessary, imminent first step to assess and understand the safety and the threats imposing or maybe inflicting or acting upon that client. And so after assessing for immediate danger to the client, the third parties, to self, etc., then I need to move into a capacity of stabilizing mood and providing structure, safety supports, safety plans, and before we can move on to any realistic hope of establishing a therapeutic process to help a person. I also recognize that therapeutic process now can be very quick, as in like brief therapy, or in some cognitive therapy perspectives that may only take 6 to 8 interventions, or depending on the nature of the causes of the depressive or even bipolar mood swings, then the causes may need a much longer term therapeutic response. So I feel like I've really grown quite a lot in this regard. Prompt 3, if a client presents with depression and suicidal ideation, Daniel, for example, in our case study, explain how I would prioritize and integrate both safety planning. Well, as I just said previously, I think safety and initial triage awareness is paramount, no matter what the nature of the depressive mood or cause is. We have to, an injured, sick, or dead patient is not one that we can work with in a therapeutic setting. So we have to make sure that the client is first and foremost safe, and should thus hopefully remain safe. We need to try to engage with family. Obviously, we have issues of consent and support from the client to do so. But once we hopefully establish that, we need to try to include spouses where appropriate, people who have direct supervision, oversight, or perhaps live with that person, maybe to help, if nothing, to ensure that the place of living is safe, free from lethal weapons such as medications they could overdose on, weapons, etc. There's a whole litany of things, thinking more long term, that I would like to engage in, like psychoeducation, trying to make sure that the client has an understanding understanding of what's happening to them, especially if we move into like CBT, which was the answer to my next slide here. What is one evidence-based intervention that I feel is appropriate, especially for patients with suicidal ideations based on depressive symptoms? I think that in this context, CBT is really, really effective, but we have to get those initial triage things taken care of. The reason I like CBT so much is because I think that, especially as a teacher, I feel like this concept has predated CBT as a formal structure for a long time, and I'm reminded of the little engine that could. I think I can. That virtue of the positive thought provides the positive energy and excitement and engagement opportunity to engage in the behavior or the action that one had been previously dreading. And so if we look at Daniel, for example, Daniel was isolating from friends and his family. Well, that is going to create a sense of loneliness. And that loneliness is going to compound if he stays in a setting of isolation. And in that isolated moment, he's very likely to think and feel that he's unlovable, unlikable, he's worthless, etc. And that's going to prevent him from re-engaging, and that just cycles. I had initially begun to explore pharmacology for people who especially are suicidal, and I chose CBT because I believe that while pharmacology is, I think, essential, antidepressants and things can be monumentally life-saving and important for people. I struggle with that therapy provides, I think, a cheaper, more preventative focused response that enables or empowers clients and provides agency to them. Whereas medicine, though critical and clearly ethical, could in some people provide a sense of dependency. Also, without the therapeutic psychoeducation training, behavioral interventions, coping strategies, etc., if they stop taking the medicine, it's highly possible that they go back into remission and begin to re-experience the depressive episodes. And so I've got two citations here that kind of back that thinking up. Now, that said, I'm not opposing or against medical interventions. I think that, as the evidence suggests from both of these, when therapeutic services are provided in congruent or concurrently with medicine, that the efficacy rate increases even more. And so both should be considered. Prompt 5, medication. Hey, there we are. So when is it appropriate to pursue a medical intervention? Obviously, if a symptom or a client is in dire need of acute, immediate symptom relief. Obviously, if somebody has been institutionalized or is being held against their will in a hospital for imminent treatment or imminent threat of suicide, then I think that medication is certainly something that should be explored. That said, I do not plan to be the person who is capable of authorizing that. So I would be referring to a third party who would be assessing the appropriateness and need for medical interventions in that regard. My role as a counselor is going to be much more that of an egalitarian, as I see it today, would be much more as an egalitarian, as a friend. Perhaps not a friend in the social construct as a friend, but as a peer support, helping them on their journey to recovery. I very, very much believe in the feminist perspective of egalitarian in the therapeutic setting, and also that of like the person-centered Rogerian ideology that the client is the ultimate expert on themselves. And I love the analogy of the two people climbing a mountain, right? If you're climbing the same mountain at the same time, it's really, really hard for one person to tell the other person what to do. But if you're each on your own mountain, you're both going through your own journey in life, it's very easy to reflectively look across to each other and say, hey, there's a better footing right over there, or whatever, So I think that my role is to help facilitate a psychoeducation and a opportunity for the client to explore their issues in a safe, non-judgmental environment. Also one by which I can continue to assess the client's progress, symptoms, and obviously need for additional support. also for advocacy. Final prompt: what are some reflections of myself? Surprisingly, prior to this chapter, I was actually much more opposed to medication than I am now. I find myself now having a much more positive look on it after I've done a bit of research and explored the efficacies, like I said, of both therapy plus pharmacology. I have a much greater awareness of the various types of depressive disorders and bipolarism. I thought previous to this chapter that manic episodes were all positive. Now, in the sense that they were, mood bumps, happiness, radical excitement, etc. Now I understand actually it's just a extreme heightened state of physiological or neural activity as opposed to depressive, meaning reduced, more lethargic, whatever. I see now how a manic state is much more dangerous and detrimental than I had previously assumed or believed it was. And I have an awareness now how manic states can actually be long lasting and maybe very difficult even for the client to be aware that they have lived through it. So that was really good. I also have a deeper appreciation for CBT. I think that's something that I need to pursue a lot more of. And a particular area of growth for me is maintaining an awareness of my own empathetic reactions and balance towards my empathy's involvement. Like empathy is it is both a superpower and a crutch. And just reading about some of these cases and watching some videos, I find myself sometimes becoming emotionally overwhelmed. And that is a challenge that I'm going to have to work with and learn to cope with, especially when I begin to work with real clients. So that's going to be a challenge. Okay, other than that, here are the aforementioned references, as of course, along with our textbook. Thank you for watching. Apologies for going over. Videos are really hard to compress. Have a great day.